Good morning, everyone. I think everybody's having a late start. It doesn't look like anyone is on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and you can always watch this in the cloud if you want to. Okay, I'll put the recording on Get Crafty. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, you need some yarn. They recommend cotton yarn for these. I have acrylic. I think it's easier to see on the video, so that's what I'm using. It washes the same to me. I've had Afghans for years that have been made by my grandma and my mom, so I don't think it's a problem. Here's what we're making. They're extenders for the masks. We're going to put the buttons on later, so I'm not going to do those just yet. That's why they're still off. Here, I'll turn the camera around and show you. So how they would work is when you have the mask, it goes around the back of the head, and they loop the elastic around the buttons to save their ears from the backs of their ears getting irritated by that elastic. There's another one I'm ready to do. I just have to sew these buttons on. Those cute little buttons. And then here's another one, which we can do in the video if we have time. It's a headband. And they say it also helps because it keeps the hair out of their face so they're not touching their faces. And then you just sew the buttons on the side, and that's what holds their mask. So we've got a few different options. This is the same stitch as what we're going to do with the little bands. So I'll show you how to modify it. So if you want to make these, you can also do that. I thought these would be good in neutral colors. We're in Central Florida, so anything gator is good here. So UF gators. Okay, so let's get started. You will need your, let me turn you around here. You will need your yarn, your hook. You may have a hook without a grippy, such as this. Okay, you need a pair of scissors. I like these. They're a little bit curved. I can kind of get close to knots if I make a knot and I have to cut it. Or I think I inherited these from my grandmother, which are good for on the go. So you can just fold them up and keep them in your little crochet bag. They're not going to poke anything. Hey, Denise. Oh, let me admit you. Okay, so you want a little tape measure, ruler, whatever you've got, just so you can measure at the beginning. Okay? All right, I'm going to give Denise a minute to get in here and get settled, and then we're going to get started. Be right back. I'm going to grab a pillow. My chair isn't tall enough. Hey, Denise, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay, hold on. I cannot see you, but I see your name on my screen.
Oh, wait. You're supposed to see me too? Okay, there we go.
You can, that
can
way
you
I
hear
can.
Me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, sweet.
Yay. That way I can see what you're working on. If you have a question, you can show me and we can kind of go from there.
Sorry I'm late.
No, that's okay. You're the only one so far. I don't know what happened to the others. Well, one had a headache, so we know how that goes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just went over the supplies, but you kind of know that.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I gotta get my scissors. I bought me little scissors. I love me little scissors. I'm late already. That's the only bad thing about sideways. The camera on this is weird. But that's okay.
That's okay. I was just showing my scissors too. Look at these. These I think I inherited from my grandma for like on the go to keep in your crochet bag.
Yes, my grandma used to have those.
Yes. So they're not very sharp anymore. I might have to have Eric sharpen them for me. But
am I
they
going
work.
to need the needle thready thing?
Not just yet. Right now we just need the crochet hook and the yarn. We're going to do a little bit different of a stitch for this one.
Okay.
I was showing just a minute ago that we can make headbands as well
Ah,
and put the
oh
buttons.
yeah, headbands. I could do that for my wonderful little baby.
Yep.
My
And
8-year-old.
you can sew the buttons on here, and they say it keeps their hair out of their face so they're not touching their face also.
I like
So
that.
that's another good one.
Now, will you have notes on this one too? So after the fact, I can transfer.
I already have it ready to email to you because I knew you were going to ask.
No, my OCD. Okay.
Nope,
Okay.
that's fine. Okay, so, yep. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot. So for those that don't know what a slip knot is, just wrap it around your finger, put the top over, grab it and pull it through.
Okay, hold on. Do that again.
Or you can just do it this way. Wrap it around, make a circle,
Yeah.
push the end through, but not all the way. Grab the end and pull. I'll do it again. Make a circle.
No, show me the other one. I like the other one.
Okay, wrap around.
Okay, wait. Okay, wrap it around. Okay.
Push
I'm
this,
your
push this over with your thumb. Kind of grab it with your 2 fingers
So,
and pull. I think the other one's easier.
okay.
Just make a circle.
Right.
Push the
Yeah.
end side
I got it.
through.
Can you see?
And then just tighten it up. Put your hook in. Just insert your hook.
Yeah.
And then slide the knot up, which mine isn't wanting to do. Hold on.
Is that pretty much how you start them all?
That's how I start them all.
Okay.
Make sure you leave a tail because you want to be able to weave that end in. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to hold it like a beginner would, just between these
tail
two.
too small?
I can't tell on the video. You want about 6 to 8 inches. And especially since yours is frayed at the end, you want to leave because you won't ever get that in the needle to weave that in.
All right, hold on. Let's just start it. Okay. Okay.
So we're going to go around 2 fingers, pull it up.
I'm just gonna, yeah.
Push it over with your thumb, grab it.
Okay.
And pull. However you can get it, it's just a slip knot.
Got it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
And then on this one, we're going to chain like we did the last one, which is always the foundation for most things. So you just yarn over and pull it through your yarn over and pull through.
So I don't want this slip knot too tight. Okay.
Right. You don't want the slip knot too tight. And remember, keep your stitches loose. Look, I can control the size of my stitch at any time by either pulling on the hook to make it looser or pulling my fingers to make it tighter.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You want to make it just, okay, well, everybody's tension is different. So I did some that started out, it's like 6.5, because when it stretches to about 7.5, 8. So I think one I did 20, and then I did like a different size hook. I did 25. But
should I be counting these?
No, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to count. Like I said, everybody's tightness is different. So it's just based on how long you want them. Some places are saying 4 inches, which I find hard to believe. I asked my neighbor who's in healthcare, and she said, well, I would just measure behind your head, ear to ear, because that's where the elastic would be going. But I'm thinking it needs to be a little bit shorter because the elastic's not going all the way around like a the depth of your ear. You know, it's just a little button. So it's coming to a triangle instead of a big rectangle. So I think a little bit shorter would be okay because they want them snug fitting. So I'm going to do a few more and then I'm going to measure. So I take my little tape measure. And you won't be able to see this on the video, but that one is 6 inches. So I'm going to go a little bit more.
Okay, I'm not there yet.
Yep. Yep, and this one stretches, so I'm going to take a little bit off. It's still stretching beyond 8. Yeah, that's about, there we go. So I'll count mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mine is 18. So I would go maybe 20. Like I said, just depending on how small you're making your stitches. And this is one of those patterns that you can just modify, because once you learn how to go back and forth to make rows, you can make anything from a dishcloth to a blanket to, you know, it's just the same idea going row by row by row.
Okay.
So
This might be the stitch too that I'll be able to show Allie how to do. Because that's my goal. I already told Brandon, I'm learning how to crochet, so I got something to pass on to my granddaughter.
nice.
And my grandmother passed on stuff to me. My mother didn't necessarily. My grandma did.
What was that?
I said my mother didn't, but my grandma did.
Yeah.
You know, pass on the
Both
skill.
my grandmother and my mom did. My mom can't anymore because of the arthritis in her hands, but
I need to just get my my ruler. I'll be right back.
okay. So for those of you who are on just trying to learn, while she's gone, I'm going to do a little close-up. So let me take the hook out. It's a little bit easier for me to hold. So close up, if you can see, there are V's. Do you see the V's that are forming? See the V's? So those, each of those V's is a stitch. I'm just doing this for the video recording.
Yeah.
You're into this, okay? So each of these V's is a stitch. You never count the loop on the hook. So when you're counting, this very first V up here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's how we're going to count, and then we would just keep going. So the loop that would be on the hook doesn't count. So there's the first V, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Okay. And you want to kind of stretch it, Denise, when you're measuring, because the elastic's going to stretch it when it's pulling on it.
Looks like I have 31. Is that too long?
30?
31.
Doesn't matter the stitches,
30,
it's the size. How many inches does it measure?
7 at least.
Yeah, then that's good. Stretch it as much as you can and then measure.
Okay,
See,
stretch, it's almost 8.
Okay, that's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so now for this stitch. This is one, it's a little different than the stitch we've done before. It's called a half double crochet. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go from the third, we're going to go into the third stitch from the hook. So your hook is in here. We don't count that one. So here's 1, 2, Here's the third V.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes.
So you don't count that first one because that's the loop on the hook. So 1, 2, the bump on the top of the third V. Okay.
Okay.
That's where you want to go in. Don't go in yet though. Here's what the stitch is. You're going to yarn over, which is a little different. That's the only thing that's different in this stitch. First, go into that hole, okay? Yarn over and pull it through just like a single crochet, right?
Uh-huh.
And then now you have 3 loops instead of just 2 like a single crochet. You're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops.
Okay.
But you see how I keep it loose so I can get the head of my hook through. If you make it too tight, you won't get through those 3 loops.
Okay.
So I'll do that again. You yarn over, go into the stitch,
Okay.
yarn over,
Yeah.
pull it back out. This is where I kind of give a little bit of a tug on my hook while I'm holding the base, and that just kind of evens these loops out. You don't want one that's really tight. You see that? You won't be able to get the head of the thing back through there. So just loosen it up a little bit. Once you get moving, it'll loosen up. Once you have your 3, yarn over and pull through all 3. And this is a basic stitch, like I said, that you can expand on. You could make your chain start at, let's say, 9, 10 inches if you wanted to make a dishcloth. And then it's just the same pattern over and over. So I'll do another one. Yarn over, go into that top of that V, yarn over, pull through with your 3 loops, yarn over and pull all 3. And if you want to know where to go to the next stitch, you can see this is where the last stitch went in, right? We see the yarn in there. So this next bump would be where we would.
Will you do it again? Do it again.
Yep. Okay. So for this, to start the stitch, we're going to yarn over.
Yeah.
Put it in the next stitch. Yarn over. Pull it through. 3 loops. Let me know when you get 3 loops.
Okay.
And you can hold with your thumb and your middle finger down here, or your ring finger if you're holding your yarn, like this.
Okay, so, all right, so now I got the yarn over.
So now
and
if
I
you have
should end
3
up
loops, you got 3 loops?
No.
You can show me what you have, and then I can kind of see where you're at.
Right, so, okay, I'm going in that third loop. I'm going
Okay.
to yarn over.
Yarn over first.
Yarn over.
Yarn over.
Mm-hmm.
Insert the hook in.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yarn over.
Uh-huh.
Pull it back through that loop. Okay, now you should have 3 on the hook.
Okay. All right, I'm in the hole.
Okay, so you're here.
I'm
You're
yarning
here.
over.
Yarn over.
Yeah.
Pull it out. Pull it back through to the front.
I only have 2.
Okay, let's start that over. So you have one on the hook right now.
Yeah, I got one on my thing, yeah.
Okay, so if you yarn over, right, now you have two,
Okay,
put it in the hole.
in the third hole. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm,
what I screwed up. Okay, gotcha.
mm-hmm.
All
So
right,
now if you yarn over, once you're in the hole, you yarn over again.
bring it through all three.
Hmm?
Do I bring it through all three at that point or no?
Nope,
No,
nope, you just
just
pull
the,
it up
okay, I got it.
and
Okay,
then yarn over and pull through. So everything has a yarn over in between.
okay, I got it.
Okay,
I
so
see.
it's yarn over, push in, yarn over, pull out, yarn over, all three.
Now, am I now going to every next V, correct?
Every next V, correct. So that's what I'm trying to show
Okay.
here. Let me take this out and I can show you. So here's the stitch that I just did because I have yarn going in it. So this would be my next stitch.
Okay, I see that.
Is it helping with the Zoom that we can talk? I think
Yeah,
it's a little easier.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I got to yarn over before I go in the hole.
Yarn over, push in,
Okay.
yarn over, pull out,
Out, yarn over, pull through.
yarn over and pull through. So this is what it's starting to look like. And you can see each of these stitches that we've made. And you're just going to keep repeating that until the end of the row.
When does it get easier to hold?
Yeah, it's
I'm
going to take.
struggling in that area.
Okay, so let me show you. I loop my pinky under,
Okay, hold on.
kind
Okay,
of hold it that way.
you loop your pinky under. Okay.
Yep, so I catch it under, loop it
Catch it under.
around, and
Ah.
grab this with my pointer finger. So I can hold this with my middle finger.
Oh, I like that. That's easier. Okay.
And that way you kind of control the tension too, because if I need more yarn, once I yarn over and put it in, like my index finger starts to go down, and then I can just
Yes.
kind of pull it up
I
using
think
my
that,
pinky as the guide.
okay. I think that's been part of my problem.
Okay. Some beginners like to just start between and then grab here, and that's fine. I mean, it works, but my fingers get fatigued really easy doing it that way. So you go under, wrap, and then you've got
Okay.
fingers left to hold.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's starting to look like something.
That's good.
You know what it is? I don't have, like, this thing is so short so far still. It's kind of hard to.
Yes. Yeah, whenever you start something, it's always the hardest because there's nothing to hold on to.
Yeah, I
Like
know. It's
once there's
flopping
some depth
around.
to it, you can. And then once you start to get like into blankets where it's so big, then you're having
Yeah.
to kind of shift it in your lap every,
Yeah.
couple inches,
But
which,
that gives you something else to hold. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's why I like dishcloths. They're a nice size because once you get past the first row or two, you have something to hold and it's not so big that you're jostling around with it in your lap.
Yeah. And I did my other bag so tight, I'm trying to do it looser.
Yes. Yes. And that's a beginner thing. So for you beginners who may be watching the replay, that's common. And that's why I show you how to control that by kind of pulling on your hook a little bit. See, I can control that, how big that stitch is. And you want to have enough room to get the head all the way through. Watch if I do a tight stitch.
Yeah, that's where I'm struggling here. I guess I did.
If I keep this really, really tight,
Yeah.
it's hard to get the the hook back through.
Yeah.
And that's a beginner thing. Once you're not holding everything so tight and you can relax, it comes. It's just muscle memory, really.
And do you find some yarns don't fray and split as easy as the others?
Yeah. You know, some brands, like, you know, that are 4-ply or whatever, they tend to split so that you're constantly like only pulling half the strand. I can't get this one to do it, but
That's the trouble I'm having with this yarn.
maybe that yarn. Yeah. Maybe we can try you a different yarn. I'll put together a little care package. That's why I didn't want to do.
I mean, I love the color, but it does seem to. I had that issue with the lavender bag.
Yep. That's why I like the Red Heart Super Saver, but some of them are even different. Like I noticed some are stiffer, and it might be the dye. Like the darker colors maybe are stiffer, and the lighter colors are softer.
Maybe.
Yeah, it just depends what you get used to working with. I have some that's called blanket yarn, and it's not even stranded. It's just like a whole piece. I don't even know how to describe it. I can show you though. But yeah, different yarns can make it very difficult. And then there's the furry yarn, and that always makes it interesting because then, you know, you can't really see where your next stitch is sometimes, where to put it.
It'll be a while before I graduate to that. I think
Yeah.
I'm a little far away from that part.
I have one project that I'm doing with velvet yarn, and it's really pretty. But you kind of have to feel the stitch. You have to know where the next stitch is. So yeah, the yarns can make or break it. Okay, so let me know when you're getting towards the end of the row. Okay, so I'm going to leave this just for the video purposes of recording. Here's the last stitch that I went in. You can see the yarn, and here's the last little stitch there. So I'll show you what to do once we get to the end. And this one works up easy because you can do it in like 2 or 3 rows, just depending how wide you want to make them. And they don't need to be wide because they're not serving a purpose other than to hold those buttons. And then Nancy was making something, and she was having issues with counting her rows on the ends weren't lining up. So I told her to start counting her stitches, and then she would lose track. So I'm going to show everybody, while we just got a down second here waiting for Denise to catch up, I'm going to show you how to use a simple stitch marker. Let me just get a piece of yarn here. Okay. So let's say I was crocheting along and I was counting my stitches, and I'm going to back it up here a little bit. And let's say I'm going to count every 5 stitches or 10 stitches, depending on how big your project is and what you're doing. Okay. So if that was my 5th stitch, okay, I would just take a little piece of scrap yarn, hold it behind that stitch, and you can see this is the last one I went in, and I would just pull it through. You can secure it better, but I find you don't need to. And then insert your hook back into the loop you were using. Trying to do it through the camera is not easy. And then you can continue going. And then let's say we got to another 5 stitches. Okay, I would just kind of leave my loop there, take my other piece of scrap, hold it behind, and pull it through. Now you have all these little things and you can just count 5, 10, 15, or if you lose track, you can count back to your 5th and go, okay, here's another 1, 2, 3. So that's just an easy way to do it. If you want to get fancy and buy stitch markers, this is for when you're working on bigger projects. I'm going to show you. I have these little doohickeys, and how these work. I could get it out with one hand. So let's say I just did this stitch right here, and I wanted to mark that stitch, okay? I would just take this little thing and just loop it in there. Can you see that? That way it's like out of my way, but it's there. I can go back into my loop. I don't even have to take it off to do this one because I'm not using my crochet hook to put it in, and then just keep going. So those are just some little tips, but see the stitch marker is still there. Sometimes if I was making something that needed so many rows, like every other row, I would put one in, or if you're counting across and it's something that is needs to be, you know, exact on the ends, you can use these to count until you get the hang of it. And then once you're done, let's say I get to the end of that row and I'm like, okay, I'm good. You just slide that out. So those are pretty cool. Just little extra tips for when you start making different things. How you doing, Denise?
It was spraying, so I was having a hard time getting out of it. I keep picking up other yarn.
When you're going in,
Ugh.
when you're going in the
Yes.
stitch and you're coming back through, yeah, your stitches are still kind of tight then.
Okay.
So once you get through that first row, it gets a little easier.
Yeah.
I think once we turn, it's going to be easier, and I'll show you why, because you know exactly where that next stitch is. It's not as tight. It's different than the lavender bags where we're going to keep going in the V like we did on the lavender bags. Once we flip it to the other side, you're going to be able to see exactly where that next stitch is, and it goes in and out a little easier than the V.
Ay, ay, ay. All right, that one finally went through.
Okay.
And I'm trying,
let me see, hold it up. Okay, yep. You've got probably
ways to go.
Almost half. I'm gonna do my next row just for the recording, and then when I get to the end of my next row, you might be at the end of yours.
Yeah, if you wait on me, it'll be a 4-hour class.
Okay, so here's my last stitch. Let me show you. Pull this out, otherwise it weighs it down. Okay, so we got to the end of the row. Here's a stitch, the last stitch we went in. Here's my last little nub. So that's the last stitch of the row. So I'm going to do the yarn over, yarn over, push it in, yarn over, pull it out, and pull all 3. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's starting to take shape. Now, in order to build up to the next row, because if you just turn this and tried to start, it doesn't work. You have to build up to the next row. So in order to do that, we chain and we chain again. See how that's building up that next row? So you chain 2 and then flip it. Now we're not going to work in the V's, but do you see all those little holes that opened up? Those are all the stitches. So we're going to yarn over, put it in that very, very first stitch, yarn over, pull it back through, yarn over, and all three. Do that again. Yarn over, put it in the stitch, yarn over, pull it back through, yarn over, and pull it through all three. Okay, so I'm going to do that turn one more time. I use the white yarn only because it's easier to see. If I used a darker color yarn, you wouldn't be able to see as well. So I'm going to go into that very last stitch, yarn over, push it in, yarn over, pull it out, yarn over, all three. Okay, that's the last stitch of that row. I call that row one. I don't really call the chain a row, so I would call that row one is done. Now to build it up to the next row, chain two. And the number of chains is dependent on the stitch you're using. So if you're using a single crochet, you would use 2 stitches. If you're using a double crochet, you would use 3. A triple crochet, you would use 4. But sometimes patterns call for different things, but this pattern is for 2. So we're going to flip it over. If I kind of stretch it out a little bit, you can see those holes open right up. Yarn over, put it in that very first stitch, yarn over, pull it back through, yarn over, all three. Okay, and you can see very clearly when you turn this over the holes. Yours might be smaller because you're going to have a tighter pull than mine. I tend to crochet a little bit looser. Oh. That must be a delivery.
It's okay, thank you.
So you can see where the next stitches go. You don't make it sound very relaxing.
I am struggling. I've hit.
Maybe we need to do this at wine 30.
I'm telling you. Well, I don't know if it's because I thought I was making it looser.
Yeah, it's hard when you're a beginner. It really is. It's a different. It just is the way it is until your hands can relax and you know what you're doing and you're not holding everything so tight. I remember my grandmother used to just whip through it and everything was all even, and I would try to do the same thing. It would take me like 3 times as long and mine was all wonky. But
yeah, I'm wonky, all right. Okay. I mean, I'm getting through. What did I do wrong there? What?
you can show me. I can try to help you. That's why I'm trying to do the Zoom. Okay, hold on. How did you get 2 on there?
I don't know. All right, I'm gonna come back.
Pull your hook out and try that stitch again.
Okay.
Yep. So yarn over.
Okay, yarn over, go in the hole.
Go in the hole. Yarn over.
See, it's tight too, so
yeah.
Pull it through the one hole, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yarn
And
over
now you
and
should
go
have
through.
3. And
Now
then
go
yarn
through all.
over and pull 3. Mm-hmm.
Right, that one.
See, that's where you're having the trouble, is because everything's tight.
Yeah.
But it's working.
So maybe once I get through the next side, it'll be easier.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, anything beyond a single crochet, it has that yarn over to start, like a double or a triple crochet.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're going to read patterns, they label the same stitch different in the UK. So you'll see a
Oh,
pattern say like US or UK. So if it's in the UK, you have to kind of convert it to the US pattern.
okay.
It'll start to trick you, but it's just kind of like following a recipe. It'll tell you, a
Yeah.
pattern will tell you, you know, chain so many. And then it'll say, okay, here's how to do the next row and the next row and the next row. And even if you want to change the type of stitch in between each row to make it kind of different,
Yeah.
it'll give you the recipe for that.
Okay. I think I've reached. I just had a terrible time in here
Okay,
because
and it could have been the
I
yarn,
kept spraying and I'd pull it through and I'd pick up some other yarn. I
something
had no idea.
else, yeah.
So I must have gone in and out of that one area 4 times.
Yeah. I think that's a fuzzier yarn too.
It is a little on the fuzzy side and it's
Yeah.
split. And I'm a little tight on some areas. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to loosen up a bit as I go here. Make it better for the next go round.
You're almost there.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
So I was showing in the beginning too that some hooks look like this. I prefer the
Yeah.
ergo grip. And if you look at Denise's hook, if you're watching the replay, she bought this kind of hook and then found little gripper things to put over it because
Yeah.
her hand was starting to hurt her with these. So, and then I'm going to keep going talking while you're doing that. And then to
Yeah.
weave in the ends, this is called a yarn needle. It's kind of hard to see, but it has a little bit bigger of an eye on it. And it's steel. And I use this if it's a tighter weave pattern. Or I did find these and I asked for these for Christmas. I don't think you can see that on there. So it's got like a big opening to get the yarn in, and then you can just weave in your ends, which we'll do at the end. But those are just some examples of different things. Okay, I'm going to do my next row so that when you get to the end of yours, I'm done. And like once you get the hang of the pattern, they really don't take long. Like I said, you can make them 2 or 3 rows, and that's it. So here's how I hold the yarn. Grab it under. It's under here. See that? That loosens up my thumb and my middle finger to hold. It's hard for me to see through the camera.
Okay, I'm at the very.
Okay.
No, wait.
Okay, once you get to that last stitch, do your half double crochet in that stitch. I'm almost to the end of my row.
I got the 3 on the hoop. Should I keep going?
Yep. Finish that stitch.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you here in a second. Only got a few more stitches. Hold on. So this is going to be my row 2 and Denise's row 1. So I'm going to show you a couple things while she's finishing row 2. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to see that last stitch, but there's a stitch there, and we all tend to crochet really tight. So I'm going to have a tough time getting it through there, but there's a stitch there.
Okay.
See how that finally went through, and see how there's 2. Okay, so here's my last stitch. So is this where you are? You had 3?
Oh, I had to go back. Hold on.
Okay.
Right. Now I got 3. Yes.
Okay, so we're at the same place. Now you're going to yarn over, pull it through
Okay.
the 3 like we normally did. And if you look, yours is going to be a little thinner, but that's your first row.
Hold on.
We got somebody else joining. She's going to be a little behind, but maybe I can catch her up. Hello, hello, if you can hear us. We kind of already started. We're on the end of row 1. But I can see if we can get you caught up.
Right there. Got it through finally.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
at the
this
end.
is separating. That's part of my problem, I think.
I didn't hear that.
I said this yarn keeps separating. I think that's part of my problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm finally there. Hello.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to see who just logged in. It is Sharon just logged in. Oh, now I lost my video. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, there we go. Hi, Sharon. So we're just at the end of a row. Okay, so Denise, we're here.
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna chain 2, like we just did to start. 1,
Okay,
2.
chain.
Okay, here's
2
where
of them.
you were. Yep.
Okay, 2 of them.
So here's where you were.
1.
You're just gonna yarn over and pull through.
Okay.
Make sure it's not real tight. Remember, pull up on your hook and give yourself a little bit of room.
Okay. And
so you did 2 of those. Sharon,
Yeah.
I'll catch you up in a minute if you want. I can't hear you because you're on mute, but if you can figure out how to unmute and you want to talk to me, that's fine. So now you're going to take it and turn it. So now you're going to be working the back side.
Take it and turn it.
You were like this at the end of the row. Just turn it.
No, I was like this.
Okay, so just turn it. Push the end with the tail to the left side now.
It is on the left.
Are you lefted? Are you lefty? No.
No, but that's how it's been going.
Oh, you must have already turned yours?
I don't know. Did I?
How did you end up with that? Let me see,
I'm
hold
not-
it up. You must have already turned yours. Okay,
Okay, maybe I did.
maybe you did. Okay, so now if you're on the back side, can you see? You never cease to amaze me. If you turn it,
you're gonna write a crochet book.
yes. my teaching my friends how to
most
crochet.
creative student.
No, I have to tell you the story about Nancy. Now, when you turned it, do you now see instead of V's, like if I hold it this way, which is the right face, you see I see the V's on the top. If I turn it, now I see these stitches.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Sure.
So now we're going to do the same pattern. You're just going to yarn over and put it in that very first stitch. Make sure you yarn over first. You're going to put it in the first stitch. Did you see how I found that?
Okay, I see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So push it in.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Right?
Through the whole stitch or the V part?
Well, you don't see the V, you just see the hole now, but it is a V. If you kind of hold it looking at the top, you'll see the V, but we're working in the back side of it now. So you're going under the 2 loops again. There's 2 loops on that you're going under. I just can't separate them there.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I think there's the, okay, okay. Right.
And then you're going to yarn over, pull it back out. So now you've got the 3 loops again. Make sure you're leaving your tension not so tight. Make sure you're pulling up
So
on that.
I'm not going in the loop I'm coming out of. I'm going on the next one. Correct. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Sharon, that stitch is called a half double crochet. And I'll show you how to get started here in a minute. Just let me get her started and then I'll back up for you. So we're gonna yarn over, put it in the next stitch, push in. Let me know when you get there. Are you not finding the stitch or it's splitting again?
It's just not wanting to come through.
On the push in or the pull out?
Like I yarned over to go through the 3 and it doesn't want to go through it.
Yeah. Start that stitch over, and remember when you come back through, when you're pulling out, tug up on that so you can get it through all 3.
I guess I got it.
If you're too tight
Okay.
here, that first loop is going to be really hard to get through. So keep your
Okay.
stitch loose. You can see.
Okay. I'm through. Should I keep going?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yarn over, push it in, yarn over, pull it out. That's where I pull up to. Yarn over, pull all 3. Okay, and then you're going to repeat that in every stitch all the way across. That's what's so nice about this pattern. It just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. Okay. Now, Sharon, if you're just joining us, I can't hear you or see you, so I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say that you wanted to get started. So I'm gonna start one real quick, and this will be on the website if you want to review. The recording will be. So you can always go back and watch. But here's what we're making, okay? Here's a different color. You can make them any color. And then I'll show you real quick. Let me turn my camera around so you can see. I'm gonna do it over here, if you can see this one. You're gonna make a headband, and you can put the buttons on the side where their ears would be. And they said that that also keeps the hair out of their face so they're not touching their faces. So it's just another thing. And it's the same, let me show you. It's the same stitch, but instead of doing a long ways, you're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for about 18 or 19 inches. So it's quick because it's only 6 stitches back and forth. It just takes a little longer than these. So Sharon, let me get you started. I'm gonna grab orange yarn. I think that'll be easiest to see on the background here. You're gonna start with a slip knot. Make a circle. Oops, let me make a little bit longer tail. You want about at least like 6 to 8 inches of tail. So make a circle. Make like you're gonna pull that end through, but only pull the middle piece. Hold those 2 ends and make a slip knot. I'll do that one more time. Circle it around, push it through, grab the middle, and make a slip knot. Keep your finger in there. You don't want to pull it all the way out because it will slip, hence the slip knot. You're going to start by putting your hook in, tightening up that knot. My knot doesn't do that. There. There we go. Okay. You still want to leave a little bit of room. You don't want to pull it tight on the hook like this, because you'll never get back through. It's really tough. So you always want to leave a little bit of room on that first stitch. Okay, and then you're going to chain, and what a chain is just yarning over and pulling it through the loop on the hook. Yarn over and pull it through, and you're just going to keep doing that. We decided we did about 20 stitches. Some folks are asking for 4-inch mask extenders. Some I've seen are up to 8 inches. So when you start to chain, let me see if I can get a little bit here. Okay, you want to pull it taut and then measure, because that elastic is going to be pulling on this. So it's going to stretch. So if you leave it not stretched and you measure, when they put it on their head, it's going to stretch and it's going to be a couple inches bigger. Okay, so you want to measure it stretched. So however big you think you want to make it, I asked a nurse in my neighborhood and she said just measure behind ear to ear and that would work. I would just do it a little bit shorter than that. So I have an abnormally small head, so I never use my head as a measurement. But we measured my son's head. He's 17, and his was about 8. So I'm trying to make him about 7.5. Okay, so you're just going to keep chaining until you get to whatever size. Okay, and when you do, pull this out for a minute because it's easier to see. You'll see the stitches. You never count the one on the hook, but can you see the little V's that form? Okay, it's a little easier to see with the white yarn, but there's little V's, and each of those is a stitch. Okay, so when you're counting to go back the next side of the row, they'll always say either skip 1 stitch or 2 stitches, and you can see the bumps on this side. So we're going to go to the 1, 2, the 3rd bump. Okay, and it's on your left side. So we're going to go to the 1, 2, 3rd bump right there. So I'm going to just put my thumb there to kind of hold it. I'm going to put my hook back in, and we're going to go to that 3rd hole. Now this is a half double crochet, so you're going to yarn over, put it in that 3rd hole, yarn over, pull it back out, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. I always give a little tug, because if it's too tight, you'll never get back in that stitch. Yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's the whole stitch. So you're just going to repeat that over and over and over. So you yarn over. It's kind of hard to see on this yarn, especially through the camera. Go into that next bump. Mine's a little tight. Yarn over, pull back through. Got 3 now. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, yarn over, go in that next bump. And how you count and how you know is, here's your last stitch, because you can see the yarn coming out of it. So this would be your next, stitch. And then this one, and then this one. Can you see where I'm going in? And then you're just catching that top part of the V. But you can still see the V, you're just catching that top part, okay? So that should catch you up a little bit, Sharon. I don't know if you're able to type in the comments. Just let me know that you're there, that you're catching on. How are you doing, Denise? Oh, she stepped away. Okay, so then you just keep going and going. I'm going to show you when you get to the end of the row. And Sharon, we were talking about you could adapt this to any size. You know, you could go to 9 inches and you could make yourself a dishcloth. You could go to 40 inches and make an afghan and then just make it as long as you want. You can just keep doing this stitch over and over and over. Okay. I was talking earlier, I like to make dishcloths. They're not as bulky. It's really hard this first row because you really have nothing to hold on to. But once you get past this first row, it makes it a little easier until if you're making something blanket size, you know, it's obviously like very long. So you're having to constantly shift the whole blanket over in your lap. And then when you flip the blanket, you know, imagine having to like move the whole blanket and flip it over. So I like dishcloths, they're easy. Once you get past this first row, you've got something kind of to hold on to. So here's my last stitch. Can you see it? Okay, my last stitch, I'm going to finish my stitch. And then once you get to the end of the row, here's what it looks like. Okay, now you have to build up to make that next row. So at the end of the row, you're going to do 2 chains, 1, 2, okay? And then you're going to take and flip it. Okay, now you can see where that first stitch is. Can you see the holes up there? Let me show you with my pointer thing. So once you turn it, 1, 2, 3, you know, you can kind of see the V on the side here. So you're going to just go under, make sure you get under both parts of the V. Okay, so when you go under, catch both under. If you catch one, that's all right, but it's just not going to be as tight of a stitch. So make sure you catch both. Okay. All right. I'm going to go through this one real quick, and then I'm going to show you how to finish it because they don't need to be real thick. Like 2 or 3 rows is really, really all you need. It doesn't have to be real thick. And then I'm going to start a headband and show you how to make a headband. And then I'll finish the video, post it on the website so you can see how to finish the headband. Okay. All right. So I'm coming to the end of the row. I'll show you that in a minute, how to find the last stitch. Oops. Go through all 3 of those. Okay. So here's my last stitch from the previous row. I'm going to go in. Now, if I was going to finish this, I would finish that stitch, and let's say this is as big as I wanted to make it, which is perfectly fine. Even 2 rows is perfectly wide depending on the size button to finish. So I finish going through. Let me do that last stitch again. I'm going to go through all 3, okay? And then what I like to do is clip my yarn, leaving another 6 inches or so, clip that, yarn over, and pull it all the way through, and that's called a slip stitch. And that will knot the end. Okay? So even with just 2 rows, I think that's plenty wide, but you can see how it stretches. If I measure this just kind of resting, it's about 3.5 inches. If I stretch it, it's about 4.5. So that's why you gotta stretch it when you're measuring. Okay, and then while we're waiting for that last row to catch up, I'm gonna show you guys some ideas because supplies are limited right now. I know even sewing machines, you can't find sewing machines, it's hard to find fabric. I'm waiting for elastic to come so I can finish making masks. Buttons, from what I hear, are starting to sell out. So I challenged my family last night to come up with ideas how to make makeshift buttons. I do have some, You know, I've got some buttons. These are really pretty ones. These are just plain little plastic ones. So I've got different buttons, but I don't have a whole lot. So my family came up with, this one was on the internet. You take soda pop tops, and you can just sew those on, and you can see where the elastic would fit behind that. Okay. Bottle caps. Just take something soft on the underside, maybe a little piece of scrap wood or something, and a nail, and you could poke 2 holes with a little hammer. You could sew that on. It's a little scratchy, yeah, but I mean, in a pinch it would work, you know, the elastic would stay behind it. If you had a hacksaw, like the tops of water bottles, you could cut, again with the nail, put 2 little holes in there. That way you could sew it on. We came up with like the lid. This is my coffee, and it's got like that plasticky lid. You could cut circles in this, poke 2 holes in, use that. We all hate these little clamshell, it's hard to see in this video, but you know, the little clamshell things that everything comes in, but the plastic sometimes is really sturdy. So you could cut circles, you know, poke a couple holes, use that as a button. We even got crafty and thought of water bottles. This one happens to be smooth. I know some of them aren't, but you know, if it was empty and you just cut it in half, you could kind of roll it out, cut the bottom and the top off and roll it out like a piece of plastic. You can make a bunch of buttons from this big bottle. Or something like this, you know, just cut a sheet of plastic off of that and make yourself some buttons. Online, there was a lady who was saying to drill holes in pennies. I wouldn't suggest that. That's against the law. But, you know, think of things that we can repurpose. When I was doing that last night, I was thinking about my grandparents who lived through the Depression. And I believe one of the stories was when my one grandmother died, she had a whole like hutch full of what used to be bread wrappers. In the day, they weren't plastic, they were wax paper, and she would use those to iron, and they never threw anything away. So she still had a whole hutch full of wax paper from her bread wrappers. So I think we're just going to have to start to get creative and repurpose things. So you can use anything to make a button. All right. I'm going to jump ahead and show you how to weave in ends. Actually, let me finish this one off, and I'll show you on the white. It's a little easier to see than that orange. Okay. Let me get rid of some of this mess. All right. So if you have the ends, right, that you started and you ended with, you want to weave those in. You don't want to leave those out. So if you have a yarn needle, that's great. I'll show you how to do that. But if you don't, no problem. You're going to use your crochet hook to weave those ends in. And here's how. Start back a few stitches. It's not going to be the prettiest, but it works. And you just kind of weave through your stitches. Again, mine are a little loose, so it's easier. If you have a smaller crochet hook, you know, you could certainly use a smaller. And then you're just going to grab that and pull it through. It takes a little jostling to get it through, but it will come. Okay, see how it kind of buries that? Now I'm going to go back the other way a little bit. I'm going to just weave my way through a couple stitches. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. And then pull that back through. And then when I cut the end, look, you don't even see it. You can't even tell it's there. Okay? So that's how you would weave in your ends. With this other side, I'm going to show you if you have a yarn needle. It's got a little bit bigger of a head. Can you see it? you would thread this through. You kind of twist the yarn the way it's already twisted. Okay. And then kind of feed it through. And then I kind of pull it. If it starts to unravel on you, just start again. Cut a little bit and start again. This happens, this yarn is holding together pretty good. So just get it on your needle. Same thing. Gonna kind of weave through the stitches, go front and back, front and back. See that? Pull it through. You don't want to pull it too tight. See how that corner pulled? So just pull it back, get it shaped how you want. And then I always go back the other way. Try not to go in the same stitches the same way. It'll unravel everything. Just kind of go in some stitches, pull it through. You can take your needle off, cut it. And there you go. You don't even know it's there. Okay. So these that I did, Denise, are really only 2 rows. This one, I did 3, but you know, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think they go pretty quick if you do 2 rows because it's
I
a thick
switched to a
stitch.
smaller crochet hook
Oh, okay.
because I thought maybe that's part of my problem.
Okay.
That maybe I'm working. You know, this is much easier.
Okay. Cool.
I went to a skinnier one.
Okay.
Maybe because
And
I'm
share.
probably doing it too tight.
Okay.
Let's see if that works.
I'm just gonna get this stuff ready. Are you almost done with that row?
No, I had to stop for technical.
Oh, because you went. Yeah. Got your other crochet hook. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're getting close.
Okay.
I will continue to talk then.
Okay.
So there's different, what Denise was saying is she went to a smaller one. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on here. No, but if you could see up there, see where it says 5.0 there? Oh, I think we got,
Lost you.
yeah, hold on. Are you back?
I hear you, but I don't see you.
Okay. Sharon's trying to share her screen. Hold on, I think she's trying to connect. Hold on. Let's see if she gets it. Are you trying to show me, Sharon? Yeah. Oh, she left the meeting. I don't know what she was doing. Okay, well, I'm gonna just keep talking while you're catching up. I wish I could show this in the, there. You can kind of see the 5.0 millimeters, okay? So that means that's the size of the head and the diameter of the hook itself, okay? Now I'm gonna show you one. This one is a 3.5. They're also lettered. I don't go by the letters. I like to go because that's too hard to remember. If you tell me 3.5 millimeters, that's easier for me. And if you see, it's smaller. Okay, I'll hold them up together. Maybe if I can have the dexterity to do that. See how the 3.5 is smaller? Okay, and then you can even get into tiny, tiny ones. I'm working with some crochet thread. It's not even called yarn. I don't even know what size this is. I found this in my grandmother's stuff, but that one's really tiny. It's even hard to pick up on the camera. So compared to the 3.5, you know, it's still considerably smaller, okay? So that's the different hooks. Here's one that's really big, and I'll show you what that looks like compared to my 5. See that? There's also different hooks. Some are rounded at the tip. You can see this one's a little bit more pointed, and it's more pointed here. I like the rounded a little bit more. It doesn't catch and split the yarn as much. So that's just some tips there. What else? I was going to show you my blanket yarn. Let me grab that. This one I'm going to have to move the camera. So this is an Afghan I'm making for a senior this year. Poor thing, she's not even going to get to walk down the aisle to graduate. But here's that blanket yarn. See, it's not stranded like regular yarn. It's all one piece. It doesn't twist. So that's kind of cool. It's a much bigger, thicker, denser yarn. So that's that. And this is how big that hook is for that. Let's see this one. Compare it to my 5mm that I've been using. You'll really see the difference there. So that's a big difference.
Okay, I think I'm at the end.
Okay, I'm coming. All right. So then you're going to do a slip stitch, which is, I'll just kind of show you here. Oh, it's kind of hard. Hold on. See if I can jostle this to make it look like it. So let's say, you know, that's your last stitch. You pulled through the 3.
Yes.
You're going to just take the yarn over. Well, first you're going to cut a tail. Cut your tail. Make sure you
But I'm
leave
only
it.
this wide. I need to be wider, don't I?
I don't
Or no?
think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. They don't have to be wide at all. As long as you can sew a button to it, that's all that it needs.
Half an inch.
Half an inch. Let's see what mine is. Mine's a little wider. Let's see what this one is. I still think it would be okay, Denise, unless you want to do another row.
Well, it's my first one anyway. So yeah, let's try it. Okay.
So yeah, let's just leave it that way. And then, you know, if you want to make the next one and make 3 rows, you know, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so cut yourself a tail. Remember to leave room, not like the last time. You want to leave like 6 or 8 inches.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so you cut it. So your loop is on. So you're going to yarn over and pull all the way through, which I'm not going to do because I already did it on this one, and it'll pull all the way through.
Okay.
And that makes the knot. Pull the knot real tight.
Oh, pull it, like pull it out.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So that the end comes all the way through. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And that's the end for the knot. That's the knot at the end. Okay, so
My
here's your.
end is a little wonky. You want to see that?
Yeah, I think you missed the last stitch, but it's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's
is
all
there
things.
anything I can do to close this up? No. Is there anything I could do to close that up? No.
Pull it a little closer. Let me look on the other screen. I don't think at this time. Your button's going to cover it though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. And I got a little there. I'm just going to show you my work here.
That's the fraying, I think, from your yarn. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if we got you a different yarn, you'd be better.
Okay, I
So
like the color.
I know, I love the color too. And I got to tell you the Nancy story before we get off, but
Okay.
did you get a yarn needle or are you going to use a crochet hook?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Right. Oh, let me open it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. So I always take and twist. If you can see that the strands are already twisted, I twist it and kind of hold it between my fingers and then feed it through the, sometimes I have to use my nail to kind of shove it in there before I can get it to pull through. You may only get one strand to pull through, so don't pull it real hard at first. Make sure you got all the strands.
The threader won't work.
It might on this. I don't know if I've tried it.
I got it in. It's in.
You got it in. Okay, so good.
Yeah.
So then slide it down a little bit, not all the way.
Okay.
You know, you want to go about halfway down.
Okay.
And then starting from the side where you ended, just kind of weave through some of those stitches. I try to go through the middle of them. I don't know, it's hard to show on here. Like I don't go through the back or the front. I kind of try to go through the middle.
Okay.
And you can go a few, maybe an inch, and then pull it.
Okay.
But like I said, if you pull it too tight, watch that corner's going to wonky up. You can just pull it back out.
Keep going.
But once you get through like an inch or so, then you're going to go back the other way.
Okay.
And that just secures it so that if it gets pulled one way or the other, it holds.
Oh, okay. Then go back to where I came from?
Not all the way to the end, because then sometimes it'll poke out the end. I always go just a stitch or two in from the end.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And yours is probably tighter to get through than mine is.
Yeah.
Which is normal.
Okay.
Okay.
I did it.
And then when you pull it through, now you're going to cut right at the end there. Don't cut your stitches, but you want to cut the end.
Okay.
Okay. You can take the yarn out of the needle. And so you can't even see where you sewed it through.
Oh yeah. And what about the tail at the beginning?
You're going to do the same thing. So
Okay.
thread your needle with that one.
Okay.
Go down about halfway. See? And then starting from the side, don't try to start this way because that'll leave your yarn going. You always want to start from the side where it ended. And just poke through some of those stitches. About an inch. And then go back the other way. I've gone back the other way and gone exactly in the same spots. And I pull it and it didn't like loop over anything. I just pulled it right out. Oh, you're frozen, Denise. And then go back through the other way. And cut it. And then that's done. See, you've got your little thing. That's what you're left with. Denise, you're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to move on to sewing on the buttons. And then see all these little scrappy things that are left after you cut the ends? Remember I was telling you stitch markers? See, you could just use these as your stitch markers in your next project. Remember I said if you're going along and you count 5 and you wanted to put a stitch mark, you just pull a piece of yarn. You couldn't see that because I was off camera because I couldn't do it through the camera. So let's say you went through 5 stitches, 10 stitches, whatever, and you pulled this through as a stitch marker. And that's how you can count stitches. So these little scraps aren't really, don't necessarily need to go in the garbage. You can use them as stitch markers. Okay, for this next part, you are going to need sewing stuff over here. I don't need this anymore. Okay, I'm going to do this one because I think it's really pretty with these buttons. Can you see these buttons? They're wooden. Aren't they cute? So you're going to get some thread. Denise, we lost you. I hope you're all right. But I'm going to keep going because you can always replay this. You want to use maybe a foot. Cut it. That should do both buttons. Okay. You're going to get your little needle here. There we go. Mine's already threaded. I'm going to just take that out. Show you. So you can either try to do it this way and thread it, which I can't do through the camera. I can do it freehand this way if I look around the camera. Okay. That. Or if you have a needle threader, here's how the needle threader works. Because it's a little bit more, that's a needle threader. Okay. I don't know if I can stop recording and catch Denise's text, so I'm going to just let her go. But see, this is a little more sturdy than a piece of thread. So this you can put through. And sometimes the head of the needle is so tiny. Okay, put that through. So just to show you, see, it's in the head of the needle. And then you can put this through the needle threader and pull that through. Okay, so that's how you would thread a needle. All right, so I'm going to pull this so that they're almost even. Maybe leave about 3 inches at the bottom here of just one strand. Can you see where the end of that one is? Right there. And then I'm going to leave a little bit. Okay. Take your button, minus the dog here, and position it towards the end, wherever you want. I'm going to put my buttonholes going this way. You could do it this way, any way you want. I'm going to do it this way. I just think the elastic would set better back here versus if it were here, it would have at least 2. It's not stress on just one of these buttonholes, it's on both versus, you know, on one. It would put the tension all on there, or actually it would be coming from this way. Okay, so just kind of center that wherever you want. Start from the back side. The crochet is really easy to go through. Okay, pull it through, leave yourself a tail. You want to leave it long enough, that's a little long, so that you can use that to make a tie. You can use it to knot when we're done. Go back through, but don't pull so hard that you pull this end that we left, okay? From the back side, go back through again, but don't catch this. Don't catch this end, try to keep that forward there, okay? And you're gonna go in and out, in and out, in and out. I think I did about 4 or 5 times, just so it was secure, because again, that elastic is going to pull on it. And you want it to hold. You don't want that button coming off. Make sure to, can you see? My end was starting to get backed up to the buttonhole, so I just kind of pulled the needle a little bit. We just want one strand through there. So I'm going to do this a couple more times. And when I think I have enough, I'm going to do one more just because. Okay. Then what we can do is I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to take both sides and I'm going to tie a knot. If you want to cut this first, you can. And then I'm just going to tie a knot. And I'm going to tie it again. I always overdo everything by 1, so you could probably do 2. I'm going to do 3. Okay, why isn't it working number 3? Maybe it's telling me something. Don't do number 3. Okay. There. And then just, that's on the underside. So the fact that mine is white and you can see it doesn't matter. It's not going to show. And then you snip it. And you're done. And that way the button's on. See? Okay. You would put the other button on the other side, and then I'm going to get my mask and I'm going to show you how that works. Let me turn the camera around. Okay. So if this was my mask, yes, this is my mask that I made. Okay. All right. So this is where the healthcare workers and the first responders are having issues, is behind their ears. So the whole purpose of this, let me see if I can get it to work, at least to show you one side. So instead of resting on their ear, I'm hoping you can see that, it would pull on the button. This side would come around. I would loop this elastic over this button and it would hold. Okay? So that way it's keeping it off of their ear. All right? So that's that. I'm going to make another video. I think I'm not going to continue this one because it's been an hour and a half already. So I think I'll make another video on how to do the headband, and then I'll post that on the website, okay? And on Facebook if you want to follow me on the Facebook one. All right, so I'll post this, same stitch, same idea, but instead of going long ways, you're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. It's only 6 stitches, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I can't tell you how many rows. Again, they stretch. So as you're going along and it's flat, you can measure and then, you know, measure your head. And just remember that it stretches. So just go behind your head, catch it, you know, and measure wherever yours is. Mine happens to be about 20 inches. Okay, but remember it's going to stretch. So when this is laid out flat and you're measuring, pull it taut. Watch how much this will stretch. See that? Okay, so you want to make sure it's taut when you're measuring, because if you make it 20 inches like this and then it pulls into that, you're going to have an issue. Okay, so those are my tips. I showed you about how to make buttons. I showed you different crochet hooks and yarn and stuff. This is that fuzzy yarn I was talking about, the velvet, and you can't really see the stitches. I mean, it's kind of hard to see them. So you kind of have to just go by feel. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, join us next time. I don't have anything planned for next week. I've been doing these weekly. I have a full-time job. I have a family. So I may take next week off unless I find something that I really think is pressing and needs to get out there. But thanks for joining, and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.